Greetings brothers, welcome to the weekly tactics video. Today we're looking at drop pods and the new Blood Angel specific secondary, Relentless Assault. If we were just meeting, I'm John, the Blood Angel's commander. So we're going to talk about the drop pod. It has a special rule, drop pod assault, which means it always starts in deep strike. It will arrive on any mission between turns 1 and 3. Inside it, it holds 10 chapter infantry, and then it can be quite difficult to kill just because it's toughness 6 with 8 wounds and a 3+ save. So generally the enemy has to dedicate quite a bit of fire to get rid of it. You're not going to get rid of it with bolt pistols or bolt guns, for example. So this combos really nicely with our new secondary, which is Relentless Assault, and Relentless Assault says that we need to have more units within the enemy's deployment zone than our own deployment zone, and if we do, at the end of the turn, we will score 4 victory points. So this can be used from turn 1, and we could just put one squad of 10 guys into it. That would give us 2 units. We drop it into the enemy deployment zone, and we're scoring our 4 VP at the end of our turn from turn 1. So you only need to be in there 3 turns to get 12. Usually when we talk about secondaries, we say anything above 10 is pretty solid. So there's the ability to get 12 here within 3 turns fairly easily. However, we can break down what's in the drop pod to have many more than just 2 units. And if we do this, then I feel like it's very likely we will score Relentless Assault consistently through the battle. And another option is we could always just score the regular Space Marine Linebreaker one, which is just to have 2 units within the enemy deployment zone. But maybe if you're dropping such an aggressive force into the enemy deployment zone, Relentless Assault is the better choice, because they're going to have to decide, are they going to go out and try and get primaries? Are they going to try and shore up their backfield? So let's jump into it. And we've got 5 different options this week of different types of units that we could put in these drop pods to essentially maximize our points for the Relentless Assault secondary. So yeah, I think with this tactic it might be map situational, but even if you have paid for the drop pod, there is other uses for that. You could use it for all fronts. Like I said, we could use it for Linebreaker. We could use it to just hold an objective, because the drop pod will, as I said, generally linger, so you could use it to just hold a primary. But the tactic I think would be, if the map allows for it, you would drop this drop pod very aggressively. You would be scoring your secondaries. The enemy player would have to deal with what's coming out of the drop pod, and at the same time you're going around the map and claiming your primaries and any other objectives you need to be. The 10 guys that we've put in the drop pod, I've tried to pick things that would give like really high synergy, and we've tried to do some melee and some shooting just so we can see fully like the spread of options. So the 5 options we've got here are, the first one is 8 Death Company, Carbolo and a Chapter Champion, and I've also put the points cost for each one, 361 points here, excluding the drop pod. We will add the drop pod points in later on, but just excluding so you can see what you're spending on the units within. Next up we have 7 Death Company, Carbolo, the Chapter Champion, and then we're going to take Tycho the Lost, because he actually has 9-inch reroll 1 aura for Death Company. I didn't realise it was 9-inch till I looked at this. Then we're going to try Tycho with 9 Stern Guard veterans, and we're going to have a mix of like combi flamers, combi meltas, multi meltas, and even like a power sword on the sergeant. Then we'll try Tycho with his 8 Stern Guard veterans this time, and we'll include the Chapter Champion. There's 2 ways we could use him. The Chapter Champion could heroically intervene against anyone that's charging in to essentially Angel Sacrifice and keep all those units alive. Obviously with the Flamers, you're going to get to do Overwatch against anyone that's charging as well. So that's kind of interesting. Or, I mean, you could drop in, you could unload, and then you could charge in and use the Chapter Champion for a reroll with charges. And then the final option, we're going to take Tycho. We're going to take 6 Stern Guard vets, same idea, flamers, meltas, multi-meltas, but we're going to take 2 Chapter veterans with the Chapter Champion, and they're going to have lightning claws. So we're kind of just going to mix it up, and we're going to try all 5 options, and I've math hammered every single one. And then at the end of the video we'll put it all together, and you can decide if you're going to take a drop pod, if you're going to try Relentless Assault and you're going to be very aggressive in turn 1, let's know all the numbers and let's know what are our best choices. So yeah, option number 1, we're taking those 8 Death Company. In the Death Company we've put 6 Chainswords and 2 Thunderhammers. We're taking Carbolo, who's got his 6 Chainsword hits, but the reason to take Carbolo is because he's going to give everybody Savage Echoes from turn 1. And then we're going to take our Chapter Champion, and probably we're going to take the Aura, the Martial Exemplar, so everybody can reroll charges. So we've got 65% chance of charges. I've put down the risk of this as medium because 65% with 3 charges, you're basically saying 2 out of 3 of those charges are going to happen. But I guess if in some games, if they all happen, then great. So then as we go through this document, each time we're going to compare all the weapon choices that we've mentioned against the various types. So we won't stay too long on these slides, but I have worked it all out. And I guess in option 1, just to point out, there is 8 bolt pistols, and I haven't factored them in because, I mean, option 1 is all about a melee list, so we'll just ignore the bolt pistols for list 1. So list 2, or option 2, is very similar to the first one. We're going to drop 1 Death Company with a Chainsword, we're going to pick up Tycho with Lost, we can then get our rerolls 1 on the Death Company. It gives us, Tycho the Lost obviously has like 6 attacks once he gets into close combat if he's got the Savage Echoes, and it's a -3 on his Dead Man's Hands. So slightly different. I mean, it's going to cost 100 points extra to take Tycho, but he does also have that 9-inch reroll 1s if used correctly, Tycho the Lost, with the Death Company, so we could daisy chain like a model back to him if he didn't make his charge. So yeah, a very interesting second list, and I guess this list would actually give you 5 units from the start of the game. The second that drop pod unloads, you have 5 units in the enemy deployment. I find it very unlikely that they will have 5 units in your deployment zone from like turn 1. So you'll be scoring solid VP on this list straight away. And I mean, in the last list we actually still had 4, so we're probably scoring solid on all these lists as we go through them. So in list number 2, again, it's all focused on melee. So we do have 7 bolt pistols and 1 combi melta on Tycho, but I've just ignored that for the calculation. Alright, so let's go into number 3. So number 3 is a list that I thought that would have synergy. I've been thinking about this for a while. Sternguard veterans have very interesting weapon options. Those combi flamers, those combi meltas, the multi-meltas, team them up with regular Tycho or any other captain really to get your reroll 1s, and I thought this would be a very good way to drop in and shoot very effectively. So I guess this is 3 units, the Tycho, the drop pod and the Sternguards, and the flamers will be auto hitting obviously. And then the flamers will protect a bit if the enemy needs to charge us, right? Because they will auto hit anyone that's charging, and we have a bunch of multi-meltas there, so we should be able to kick out a good amount of damage. So again, we've worked out all the numbers, and then there is 2 things to say about this: that we didn't include firing the rapid fire bolt guns on the combi meltas because we didn't want those combi meltas to take that -1 to hit, and then we haven't included any close combat here. I mean, you would be needing to make a 9-inch charge, or so a roll of 8, so it would be a 41% roll. But if you do get in, then I mean your Sternguard would get 28 attacks, but then they are locked up in combat. Maybe they can't fire their multi-meltas next turn. And I guess if Tycho does go in, I mean you get 6 attacks. So this list is very much a shooting option, so we just haven't factored in any of the melee for this list. So option number 4 is a very small tweak on what we just saw, and the small tweak is we will drop 1 Sternguard veteran, and we will take into place the chapter champion. Now bear in mind this chapter champion gets that 6-inch heroic intervention, so I guess like clever positioning when you come out of your drop pod could give you the option for him to join any enemy units that decide to charge you. He also could still take his martial exemplar and give all your guys their rerolls and charges if you felt that would be something you want to do after shooting. So I think it's kind of interesting, and again we get 4 units in their deployment zone straight away, so we should be scoring our points, and you know, like we just have a little bit of counterplay here by including that chapter champion. So for list 4, I've included the chapter champion's melee damage. I haven't included any of the rest of their melee damage. I mean you could, and you could think about it, but I just assume that like maybe you drop in, everybody shoots, we weaken some targets, and then the chapter champion charges off and we leave the other guys ready for another round of shooting. I suppose it depends if there's a really weak unit, but yeah, we've not included that. So that is option number 4. So list number 5 is going to be split with the company veteran joining, 2 of them, with Lightning Claws joining our company champion, and then we'll still have the Sternguard and we'll still have Tycho, and we'll drop in, we'll flame, we'll melta, and then we'll charge off with the champion and some Lightning Claw guys to see if we can do some work elsewhere. Again, for the final damage numbers, I've not included the charge from Tycho or the Sternguards. I mean, the math was getting a little bit complex anyway, and I think probably you don't want to overcomplicate it. If you want to take this one step further or tweak this, then I'd love to know how you think you could tweak it to be better. But these are 5 lists I've been thinking about for a while, so let's move on to the final step and see which lists actually perform best and why. Okay, so in the final step, I've marked what did really the best in green, and I've marked what did second in yellow. And I guess it's no surprise in that having that Savage Echoes buff, we know it really makes our Blood Angels stronger, and in this case, the list that had the 7 Death Company, Corbolo, Tycho, and the Chapter Champion did best. I mean, it is a bit risky, and I've put at the bottom how many charges we're going to need, and I've also put the points costs, and it is kind of the most expensive list as well. So it did best, and I guess it has the most risk, and it is that potentially has the most charges. But then the list that did second best was again our Death Company, Corbolo, and the Chapter Champion. So, and I mean, their points cost seems much more reasonable, and I think when you compare the two together, you're paying that extra 100 points for Tycho, but he isn't really, he's adding 21% to the cost, but he's actually only adding 14% to the damage. So I guess point for point, the first list with the 8 Death Company in the drop pod is actually going to end up being kind of the most viable for Blood Angels. What else actually really surprised me was option 3 was our pure shooting list. That was Tycho plus the 9 Stern Guard plus all those combi weapons and multi-meltas. I really thought, like when I was thinking about this in my head, I really thought that was going to be a very strong tactic. It's okay, and I guess it is low risk because you do not have to make any charges. I was thinking it was going to be much more reliable because you don't have to make any charges, and I was thinking all those combi weapons, surely they're going to do a lot of damage, but it really, quite often it comes down to in these games is that extra attack and that +1 to wound from Red Thirst are worth their weight in gold. I mean, they win me so many games. So yeah, I mean, we can shoot okay, but I mean, I guess there are probably better chapters that could do the shooting. And then the combi lists at the end there, where we had like list 4 where we just had the champion, or list 5 where we had the champion with a couple of veterans with some lightning claws. They kind of seem interesting. I mean, point for point, they're competitive, and it's something different. And I guess the last one would give you those 5 separate units. So really, you would probably be able to score like an easy 12 points from your Relentless Assault with list 5, I would think. So leave me a comment below if you've been running a drop pod in 9th edition, or you're thinking about it, and does any of this math surprise you? I mean, the thing about this math hammer that we're doing week on week is making my army list stronger and stronger. I'm seeing all the strengths and weaknesses and finding out A is better than B, so I really hope some of that you guys are feeling as well. And yeah, I do reply to every comment on this channel, and comments and likes really help the channel grow, so I would appreciate if you have anything that you want to discuss. We have the Facebook group down below as well, so you can join us in Facebook if you want to do that. And yeah, we are hoping to get back to live battles as soon as the next level of restrictions of COVID end here in the UK, but it's kind of an ongoing thing. Alright, I really hope that we will see you next week. As always, we have multiple Blood Angels videos coming out every week, so if you're new here, please consider subscribing. By the blood are we made. Peace.